A taste of Brazil, a Brazilian nut cake recipe. Brazilian nut cake is a delightful dessert with a rich, nutty flavor and a satisfyingly chewy texture. Here's a basic recipe to get you started. Ingredients: 2 cups chopped Brazil nuts. 1 14-ounce can sweetened condensed milk. 3 large eggs. Half a cup, 1 stick, unsalted butter, melted. 1 teaspoon vanilla extract. 1/4 teaspoon salt. Instructions. 1. Preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit 175 degrees Celsius. Grease and flour a 9-inch round cake pan. 2. In a food processor or blender, pulse the Brazil nuts until finely chopped, but not powdery. You can also chop them by hand, but be sure they are well crumbled. 3. In a large bowl, whisk together the condensed milk, eggs, melted butter, vanilla extract, and salt until well combined. 4. Gently fold in the chopped Brazil nuts using a spatula, ensuring they are evenly distributed throughout the batter. 5. Pour the batter into the prepared cake pan. Bake for 50 to 60 minutes, or until a toothpick inserted into the center comes out clean. 6. Let the cake cool completely in the pan before removing it. 7. Optional, you can dust the top of the cake with powdered sugar or drizzle it with a simple glaze made of powdered sugar and milk. Tips: Toasting the Brazil nuts before chopping can enhance their flavor. Spread the nuts on a baking sheet and toast in a preheated oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit 175 degrees Celsius for 5 to 7 minutes, stirring occasionally. Watch them closely to avoid burning. For a richer flavor, substitute dark brown sugar for half of the granulated sugar. In the glaze, if using. This cake is best enjoyed at room temperature or slightly chilled. It will be kept for several days in an airtight container at room temperature. Questions. 1. Imagine you're describing this Brazilian nut cake to a friend who has never had it before. They've only tried buttery pastries and dense chocolate cakes. Which of the following descriptions would most effectively entice them to try this cake, based on the details provided in the passage? A. This cake is like a rich, buttery pastry filled with a delightful nut cream. B. It's a light and fluffy cake with a subtle nutty flavor, perfect for a summer afternoon. Copyright: Get ready for a delightful explosion of nutty flavor and a satisfyingly chewy texture that will leave you wanting more. D. This cake is like a dense chocolate cake but with a surprising crunch from the nuts. 2. The title, A Taste of Brazil, a Brazilian nut cake recipe, suggests certain expectations for the cake's qualities. Which of the following options most accurately reflects these expectations and would entice a reader to try the recipe? A. A light, delicate cake with a hint of exotic sweetness. B. A simple, familiar cake with a mild flavor suitable for any occasion. Copyright: A cake with a bold, nutty flavor profile and a unique texture. D. A rich, decadent dessert with an overwhelming sweetness. 3. The passage highlights Brazil nuts as the key ingredient. Based on the information provided, how would you describe the impact of Brazil nuts on the cake's flavor and texture? A. The Brazil nuts offer a subtle sweetness and a soft, almost creamy texture when blended into the batter. B. Chopped Brazil nuts add a mild nuttiness and a slightly crunchy bite to the cake. Copyright: The Brazil nuts provide an intense burst of nutty flavor and a satisfyingly chewy texture due to their fragmentation. D. Roasting the Brazil nuts beforehand ensures a uniform nuttiness throughout the cake, without affecting the texture. 4. The recipe talks of sweetened condensed milk that would possibly create a sweet, creamy base of the cake. Considering this information, which of the following statements about the cake's flavor and texture is most likely accurate? A. The cake will be light and fluffy, with a mildly sweet flavor. B. It will have a dense, crumbly texture and a deep caramel taste. Copyright: The cake will be very moist and have a strong milky flavor. D. You can expect a light and airy texture with a frosting-like sweetness. 5. The recipe specifically calls for 3 large eggs. Which of the following is the most likely reason for this precision? A. The type of egg is more important for this recipe, and large eggs are easier to find in stores. B. Using other sizes of eggs would significantly alter the ratio of liquid to dry ingredients, affecting the cake's texture. Copyright 3 eggs is a symbolic number in Brazil, representing good luck when baking. D. 3 large eggs are needed to create a thick enough custard base for the Brazilian nut filling. 6. The recipe calls for half a cup, 1 stick, unsalted butter, melted. Why does it specify both a cup measurement and the equivalent stick measurement? A. To ensure accuracy, as different brands of butter might have slight variations in stick size. B. To indicate that unsalted butter melts to a lesser volume than salted butter. Copyright to make the recipe usable for bakers who don't have measuring cups and rely only on butter sticks. D. To emphasize that precisely half a cup of melted butter is needed, regardless of how many sticks it takes. 7. The recipe calls for 1 teaspoon vanilla extract. Which of the following best explains the primary purpose of including vanilla extract in this particular cake? A. It provides the main source of sweetness in the cake. B. It adds a subtle depth and complexity that enhances the other ingredients. Copyright it balances out the richness of the nuts and condensed milk. D. It impacts the recipe significantly and creates a light and airy texture in the final cake. 8. The recipe includes 1/4 teaspoon salt among specific temperature. Considering this information, which of the following statements is most likely accurate? The ingredients. Which of the following best explains the primary reason for its inclusion in this sweet cake recipe? A. It directly counteracts the sweetness of the condensed milk, creating a more complex flavor profile. B. It enhances the nutty flavor of the Brazil nuts and makes them taste more roasted. Copyright it provides necessary minerals for a nutritionally balanced cake. D. It significantly helps the cake batter rise properly and creates a lighter texture. 9. The passage mentions preheating the oven to a specific temperature. Considering this information, which of the following statements is most likely accurate about how preheating affects the final cake? A. Preheating ensures the cake bakes evenly throughout, preventing a dense bottom or a cracked top. B. It slowly dries out the cake batter, resulting in a lighter and crispier texture. Copyright preheating activates the leavening agents in the batter, allowing the cake to rise properly. D. It melts the butter more evenly, leading to a richer flavor profile. 10. The recipe states, in a food processor or blender, pulse the Brazil nuts until finely chopped, but not powdery. You can also chop them by hand, but be sure they are well crumbled. Which of the following best explains why this degree of chopping is recommended? A. Smaller pieces of Brazil nuts bake more evenly and distribute their flavor throughout the cake better. B. Very finely chopped nuts can make the cake batter greasy due to the release of nut oils. Copyright large chunks of nuts might not cook through properly and could be undercooked in the final cake. D. A rough chop adds a textural contrast to the soft cake and complements the creamy filling, if present. 11. Why specify whisking rather than simply instructing to stir the wet ingredients? A. Whisking incorporates air for a lighter cake texture. B. Whisking prevents the formation of lumps from the condensed milk. Copyright whisking is faster than stirring and speeds up the preparation process. D. Whisking ensures the vanilla extract is evenly distributed. 12. Why is it important to gently fold the nuts into the batter instead of stirring vigorously? A. Folding prevents too much flour from being activated, keeping the cake tender. B. Folding helps distribute the nuts evenly without breaking them further. Copyright folding helps release the nuts' oils for a richer flavor. D. Folding incorporates air into the batter, creating a lighter texture. 13. The recipe calls for 1 14-ounce can sweetened condensed milk. The recipe doesn't instruct you to chill the condensed milk beforehand. Why might using chilled condensed milk affect the outcome of the cake? A. Chilled condensed milk would mix more easily with the eggs and melted butter. B. Chilled condensed milk would create a thicker batter, resulting in a denser cake. Copyright chilled condensed milk would lead to less browning during baking, giving a paler cake. D. Chilled condensed milk wouldn't affect the cake as its temperature equalizes during baking. 14. The instructions say, bake for 50 to 60 minutes, or until a toothpick inserted into the center comes out clean. Why does the recipe provide a baking time range instead of a precise time? A. Oven temperatures can vary, leading to different baking speeds. B. To account for whether the pan is dark metal or light-colored. Copyright to allow flexibility for how well done you prefer the center of the cake. D. The type of Brazil nuts used, fresh or pre-toasted, affects baking time. 15. The recipe instructs, let the cake cool completely in the pan before removing it. Why is it important to let the cake cool fully in the pan instead of turning it out immediately after baking? A. To allow any excess moisture to evaporate from the cake's surface. B. To prevent the cake from cracking or breaking apart during removal. Copyright to ensure the cake's top becomes perfectly golden brown. D. To give the flavors more time to meld and intensify. 16. The first tip mentions toasting the nuts can deepen their flavor. What other change might toasting produce in the final cake? A. A slightly darker color in the baked cake. B. A softer texture due to the nuts becoming more tender. Copyright a less sweet flavor since toasting reduces the nuts' natural sugars. D. A denser cake due to the toasted nuts absorbing more moisture from the batter. 17. The recipe includes a tip, toasting the Brazil nuts before chopping can enhance their flavor. Which of the following scenarios would result in the least noticeable flavor enhancement in the final baked cake? A. Using Brazil nuts that are already slightly stale. B. Toasting the nuts for a very short time, until only lightly browned. Copyright chop the nuts very finely after toasting. D. Substituting half the Brazil nuts with toasted walnuts. 18. The recipe suggests toasting the Brazil nuts for enhanced flavor. What effect might toasting have on the texture of the chopped nuts in the final cake? A. The toasted nuts will be much softer and have a mushy texture. B. Toasting won't significantly affect the texture of the chopped nuts. Copyright toasting will make the chopped nuts harder and potentially chewy. D. Toasting will significantly reduce the moisture content, making the nuts dry and crumbly. 19. Considering the ingredients, how do you think storing the cake for several days might affect its texture? A. The cake will become significantly drier and crumblier. B. The cake will become denser and slightly chewier. Copyright the cake will remain mostly unchanged in texture. D. The cake will become soggier due to condensed milk absorbing moisture. 20. How does substituting dark brown sugar in the glaze affect the cake's taste? A. It adds a richer flavor profile to the cake. B. It reduces the sweetness level of the cake. Copyright it enhances the cake's nutty aroma. D. It creates a caramel-like texture in the glaze. 21. What could be the consequence of substituting almonds for Brazil nuts in this recipe? A. The cake would have a stronger nutty flavor. B. The cake's texture would be denser. Copyright the cake would require longer baking time. D. The cake's sweetness level would decrease. 22. Which is the closest meaning of the word delightful in the context of the first sentence? A. Upsetting. B. Bland. Copyright exceedingly pleasant. D. Doubtful. 23. What is the meaning of condensed milk as used in the recipe? A. Freshly milked cow's milk. B. Milk that is curdled. Copyright milk that has been thickened through sugar and water reduction. D. Low-fat milk. 24. Identify the type of word satisfyingly in the first sentence. A. Noun. B. Adverb. Copyright verb. D. Adjective. 25. Classify the word but in the second step of the instructions. A. Adjective. B. Coordinating conjunction. Copyright verb. D. Preposition. 26. Arrange the following steps in the correct order for making the cake batter. I. Whisk together wet ingredients, condensed milk, eggs, etc. 2. Grease and flour the cake pan. 3. Preheat the oven. 4. Fold in chopped nuts. A. 1, 2, 3, 4. B. 2, 3, I, 4. Copyright 3, 2, I, 4. D. 2, I, 4, 3. 27. Which of the following best paraphrases the sentence "Let the cake cool completely in the pan before removing it"? Instruction number 6. A. Take out the cake as soon as it's cool. B. Put the cake in a pan to cool it entirely. Copyright allow the cake to sit in the pan until it's warm. D. The pan should be cool before removing the cake. 28. Why is there a semicolon used in the sentence tips? Toasting the Brazil nuts before chopping can enhance their flavor. A. To separate unrelated sentences. B. To introduce a contrasting statement. Copyright to create a list. D. Semicolon is used incorrectly here. 29. What is the implied attitude of the author towards the cake in the passage? A. Indifference. B. Dislike. Copyright disapproval. D. Recommendation. 30. Find the word that means the same as permeate in the sentence. Chopping the nuts allows their flavor to permeate the cake. A. Blend. B. Spread throughout. Copyright concentrate. D. Spoil. 31. What is the cause and effect relationship in the following instruction? Toasting the Brazil nuts enhances their flavor. A. Effect, flavor enhancement, cause, chopping the nuts. B. Effect, chopping the nuts, cause, toasting. Copyright effect, toasting, cause, flavor enhancement. D. Effect, flavor enhancement, cause, toasting.